Hello, everyone. Welcome to the final week of Water Matters Month 2022. I hope you've all been enjoying the series so far and have found it to be very resourceful. My name is Adrian Aiken, and I'm a GIS analyst and natural resource specialist at the county's Resilient Environment Department. This week is Resilience Week, and our topic today is protecting our water quality amidst a changing climate. So we will explore some of the ways that climate change is threatening the quality of our water systems and water supply in Broward County, highlighting saltwater intrusion, increased stormwater runoff, wastewater system failures, and harmful algal blooms. We will also share what the county is doing to mitigate these impacts and how Broward residents can join us in safeguarding our water quality. Because the first week of Water Matters Month was dedicated to beach and marine, we will focus primarily on inland water quality impacts. There's a lot to unpack today, so let's get started. Here in South Florida, we should be very familiar with the term climate change because we're already experiencing many of its impacts. But what exactly is climate change? In summary, climate change is the long-term shift in global temperature and weather patterns resulting from our overconsumption of fossil fuels and our overproduction of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, which leads to global warming through the greenhouse effect. Now, these shifts in temperature and weather patterns trigger shifts in natural systems, which then leads to a number of cascading effects across several sectors, industries, and resources, including our water systems. So let's take a brief look at some of the local climate change trends that impact our water here in Broward County. This is a graph of water usage in Broward County, and we'll come back to it several times throughout the presentation. But if we focus on the green line, which illustrates the annual rainfall in inches, we can see that over the past 2 decades, there has been a general upward trend in the amount of rainfall that Broward County receives annually. On this slide, we have temperature trends in Fort Lauderdale over the past century, and we can see that while the average maximum temperature yearly has fluctuated, both the average annual temperature in the top graph and the average minimum temperature yearly in the bottom graph show an upward trend, with the average minimum temperature depicting a more substantial increase. Here is a side-by-side comparison of the temperature history in 2000 and in 2020, again in Fort Lauderdale, and we can see here that throughout the year in 2020, there is a wider distribution and higher count of temperature readings above 90 degrees Fahrenheit, and a lower distribution and count of temperature readings below 70 degrees Fahrenheit compared to the temperature history in 2000. So essentially, this depicts that we experienced more warming and less cooling throughout 2020. One of the important impacts of climate change that we continue to track and plan for is sea level rise. Our Southeast Florida Regional Climate Change Compact references multiple sea level rise projections to ensure the resiliency of our region. Along many of these projection curves, the rate of change accelerates over time. Currently, we're experiencing approximately 1 inch every 4¼ years, but according to NOAA Intermediate High Curve, between 2040 and 2070, the rate of rise will accelerate to roughly 0.8 inches per year. So let's explore how these local trends relate to our water quality in Broward County. Broward County receives most of its potable water from the Biscayne Aquifer, an underground source of fresh water. Saltwater intrusion can threaten this freshwater supply through lateral intrusion, where saltwater from the ocean encroaches on the aquifer, or through vertical intrusion, where groundwater pumping causes the vertical movement of saltwater near discharging wells. As the sea level continues to rise in response to our warming planet, saltwater is pushed into the Biscayne Aquifer, increasing the risk of both vertical and lateral intrusion at pumping wells. Saltwater intrusion decreases the freshwater storage of the Biscayne Aquifer and can lead to the abandonment of wells. Here is a figure which maps the area impacted by saltwater intrusion within Broward County between 1994 and 2019. And we can see how this impact has grown over time. Also, a modeling exercise revealed that by 2060, saltwater intrusion will threaten 40% of Broward's coastal wells. Now, there are several steps that can be taken to discourage saltwater from further encroaching upon the Biscayne Aquifer in Broward County. The South Florida Water Management District operates coastal salinity control structures to prevent the intrusion of salt water into the coastal aquifers and to promote groundwater recharge areas. For example, during high tide, the gates at these structures may be closed to prevent salt water from entering the canals and moving further west. If we look at the map on the right, we can see most of the salinity control structures are west of the freshwater saltwater interface. Broward County has a saltwater monitoring agreement with USGS and also supports saltwater intrusion modeling for understanding the impacts of sea level rise on saltwater intrusion of the Biscayne Aquifer. Some utilities in Broward County have abandoned coastal wells and relocated further inland in an effort to discourage saltwater intrusion. But I think one of the strategies we can all work on collectively, whether as residents, businesses, or at the governmental agency level, is to reduce the demand on the Biscayne Aquifer through water conservation measures. And really, this means using less water where possible and using water more efficiently. Last week was Water Conservation Week, and several conservation tips and programs were shared. And so I really encourage you to review that, because the more water we pump from the Biscayne Aquifer and the lower the water table gets, the easier it is for saltwater intrusion to occur, especially with sea level rise. And revisiting this graph of Broward County's water use, we can see some of the conservation measures and programs at play, helping to reduce water use per capita. And if we look at the blue bars, we can see that over the past decade, we have greatly reduced the amount of water pumped from the Biscayne Aquifer in Broward County. Now, as our population continues to grow rapidly along with our water needs, it will be important for us to continue tapping into alternative water supply methods, such as non-potable water reuse for purposes such as irrigation. Next, we're going to look at water quality impacts from increased stormwater runoff. Here, the term runoff refers to the flow of rainfall over land or impervious surfaces, such as paved streets, parking lots, and buildings. In the natural environment, most precipitation is absorbed by trees and plants or percolates into the ground, which results in stable stream flows and good water quality. However, in the built environment, some rainfall lands on impervious surfaces and runs off more rapidly, picking up pollutants such as oil, gas, fertilizers, pesticides, sediment, trash, and animal waste as it flows over land. This untreated stormwater can be conveyed to local water bodies, drinking water well fields, coastal waters, and other natural areas. Now, with climate change, as we saw in an earlier graph, the annual precipitation Broward receives is trending upwards. Also, we have been observing an increased frequency of heavy precipitation events when a lot of rainfall is dumped on an area in a short period. Another thing to note is that sea level rise can raise the water table and reduce the groundwater storage capacity. If there is less groundwater storage, you're going to have higher overland flows in both the natural and built environment during a rainfall event. So this figure shows a segment of Broward Boulevard and the future water table determined by a model which accounts for the projected sea level rise and precipitation trends for 2070. And we can see here that at a few points, the future water table is actually higher than the ground surface, which is indicative of inundation under the modeled future conditions. Now, if we look along the corridor, the future water table is much higher than the base water table, and closely approaches the ground surface in most areas along this segment, illustrating that the groundwater storage capacity will be greatly reduced. With more heavy rainfall events, increased annual precipitation, reduced groundwater storage, and increased impervious area from development activities, we can expect to see higher overland flows and higher volumes of stormwater runoff, which increases the capacity of the runoff to pick up contaminants and excess nutrients and deposit them into our water bodies. Of course, stormwater and water management agencies are working arduously to address these issues and to satisfy our region's increasing drainage needs. In addition, Broward County is currently undertaking a resilience plan, which will provide solutions to these urgent problems. But as a resident, there's a lot you can do to help with this issue and to protect our water quality. First, ensure that there is no debris or trash near your stormwater drain. Check your car. Is it leaking coolant? Do you have an oil leak? If you're doing your own oil change, you don't want to just discard the oil on the street. Instead, take it to an appropriate disposal facility. Pick up after your pets when they use the bathroom outside. Invest in green infrastructure to help slow down and retain some of the water. Reduce or eliminate your pesticide and fertilizer use by choosing plants that thrive in our tropical environment. You can also visit the South Florida Water Management District's webpage for more tips on how to help as a resident. Next, we're going to look at a few climate change impacts to wastewater systems and how this threatens our water quality. Much of our wastewater system infrastructure is underground, and the effectiveness of these systems can be compromised by sea level rise, saltwater intrusion, and heavy rainfall events. When our wastewater systems receive more water than they are designed for, you can see sewer line backups where waste is pushed backwards through the line and back into the home. During Hurricane Eta, Mayor Ken Thurston from the city of Lauderhill reported to the New York Times that some toilets were not flushing because of the high water. Another relevant topic in the realm of wastewater system failures and climate change is septic to sewer. A septic tank is an underground tank which collects sewage and waste, usually from a building above it, and the tank facilitates the decomposition of sewage through bacterial activity before draining by means of a leaching field. Sea level rise, driven by climate change, causes the groundwater to rise. We can see in the photos on the right that as the water table approaches the septic tank, the system can become compromised. And if it is even partially submerged, it can lead to the total failure of the system, where there's a loss of purification and a direct loading of contaminated nutrient-rich wastewater into the aquifer from which we receive our drinking water. This can have several health implications, one of the more severe being a waterborne disease outbreak. As a resident, there's a lot you can do to discourage wastewater system failures in the face of these climate challenges. First, ensure that you are not disposing of the wrong materials down your toilet, shower drains, and kitchen sink. Materials such as sediments and plastics can overwhelm the system and lead to clogs or blockages that prevent the wastewater system from functioning optimally. If you are a homeowner with a septic tank and you have sewer lines that you can connect to, one of the best ways that you can help to safeguard your community's water quality is by connecting to a sewer line. Broward County has a septic tank elimination program, also known as STEP, which incentivizes residents within the service area to make the transition from septic to sewer. So definitely look into that program to see if you are eligible. The final climate change impact on water quality that we're going to explore today is harmful algal blooms. So we've discussed how climate change can lead to increased stormwater runoff and wastewater system failures, both of which can contribute harmful contaminants and excess nutrients to our natural water resources above and below ground. Excess nutrients combined with a warmer environment creates the perfect cocktail of ingredients for algal blooms to thrive. So what exactly is an algal bloom? An algal bloom is when microscopic algae or phytoplankton found in inland water bodies and the ocean grow to levels that are considerably higher than the average. Sometimes these blooms can be beneficial and provide essential food to their habitats. Many times these blooms are inedible and become harmful when they reach excessive levels and impair the ecosystem's balance, produce toxic chemicals and nasty odors when they decompose, and greatly deteriorate the water quality. In lakes and reservoirs, the most common kind of algae that produce harmful algal blooms are blue-green algae known as cyanobacteria. The toxins that are produced by these blue-green algae can kill fish, wildlife, and even pets that come into contact with the water. So what can you do as a resident to discourage harmful algal blooms in your community's water bodies? Take the previously mentioned steps to discourage wastewater system failures and to prevent nutrient loading of stormwater runoff. Properly dispose of organic materials such as leaf litter, cut grass, and other debris which can release nutrients if allowed to decompose. Fertilize responsibly and use Florida-friendly landscaping. Create a vegetative buffer around the edge of your community's water bodies, which can intercept runoff and reduce contamination. If you are a resident of a mobile home or RV park, be aware of the regulations regarding waste disposal and only use the appropriate disposal facilities. And again, visit the South Florida Water Management District website for additional resident tips. So those are the water quality impacts of climate change that we will be exploring today. And I do want to highlight Broward County's Environmental Monitoring Lab because they work arduously to monitor and report our water quality through their ambient water quality program, which includes 46 sampling sites across Broward County from canals and intracoastal waterways. The data from the lab's water quality assessment is also made publicly available. Here is a map of their quarterly canals monitoring sites, which shows the estuarine and freshwater monitoring sites, as well as the salinity control structures, water bodies, canal network, and mobile home and RV parks locations. Here is a map showing bacteria and DNA source tracking monitoring sites. And here is a map of the lab's algal bloom monitoring sites. So what does our future look like? Broward County's Resilient Environment Department updated its Climate Change Action Plan in 2020, and the plan outlines actions that safeguard our water quality supply through conservation, reuse, and adaptation, through including future climate conditions in planning, and through promoting green infrastructure and flood mitigation. We have also invested in a resilience plan that will thoroughly examine many climate-related issues in Broward County and provide a strategy tailored to our conditions. Within our county, some projects that address some of the issues we discussed today have been successful in the application for funding through the state's new Resilient Florida Grant Program. And so we have a lot to look forward to in regards to enhancing the county's resilience in the upcoming years. So thank you for tuning in to this session on protecting our water quality amidst a changing climate. I hope it has been very informative and you feel empowered to join us in safeguarding our county's water resources. Please check out our resilience dashboard, which has a lot more information on these issues and many interactive maps and resilience tools that you may benefit from exploring. The Resilience Dashboard is also where you will find the answers to the questions for Resilience Week, so definitely visit the dashboard for a chance to win some incredible prizes. Again, thank you for tuning in and participating in Water Matters Month 2022. And we will be answering any questions you may have in the comment section below and in a live chat on our Facebook page, Environment Broward, on Tuesday, March 29th at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Have a waterful day.